You are listening to the Two and Out CFL podcast, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network.
Grab some poutine and a double-double. It's time for the Two and Out CFL podcast.
He's got it! Oh, baby!
Every week, Travis Currah.
That's Grey Cup me, which is a different person.
And Brazilian Tide.
Hunters are people too.
Talk fantasy football, bring you the latest in CFL news, and sprinkle in a little bit of nonsense.
Oh, nearly intercepted, it is! And it's over!
Ready, set, hunt!
And we are part of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. It's Travis Currah. It is Sheldon Jones. This is the final episode of Two and Out before I undergo a back procedure tomorrow to clean up some herniated discs. So Sheldon, thanks for being available for this show. I'm nervous. I got the butterflies going in my belly, but I hope I'll feel good, and I hope that I'll be good to go for the Grey Cup. If I'm not good to go for the Grey Cup, I'll still be there. But we'll see how I can handle all the extracurricular activities. I do make poor choices. It's kind of funny because there was a few dates thrown in there, and I had it in my head when Monday Night Raw was in Edmonton that I would have surgery on the 23rd and then go to Raw on the 26th. And when I go to a wrestling show, it's like a full body experience for me. I put everything into the chants, the yelling, the singing. Probably wouldn't have been good.
Our voices were shot by the time they finished taping Main Event.
That's it. The show's not the dark matches, which technically aren't the dark matches. My voice is shot. So yeah, good thing I got it now and we can kind of lay low. So next week, some pretty cool episodes in the can. Earlier this week, I talked to the Bone Crusher, Derek Dennis with the Calgary Stampeders. Talked to him for about an hour and about a lot of stuff, about basketball, about all-star voting in the CFL, his career, his mindset with his current injury, the cracked fibula. So that's a fun conversation. And then next Thursday, Tanya Walter, defensive assistant with the BC Lions, will be on the show. So we still got some good stuff coming down the pipe for you. This episode of Two and Out is brought to you by Taproot Publishing. It's a service that helps businesses and organizations pay attention to the people they serve. Taproot tells you the news about the people and companies that are important to you, and you can use that information internally to keep everyone on the same page, or share it with the world in your newsletter, on your website, and on your social media channels. Paying attention pays dividends. You can find more at taprootpublishing.ca/spotlight. It's taprootpublishing.ca/spotlight. We are coming out of Thanksgiving weekend in the Canadian Football League. Into week 19 we go. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are on bye this week. What a rough stretch it has been for that team for the past, I guess, 3 months now. So being on bye is kind of a welcome arrival for Rider Nation, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. It's nice not having to look forward to a loss, I guess. I don't know. It's it's been tough little. I'm so conflicted. I want changes. But I know it's too late in the season to really do anything. I want them to lose so that there is changes, but I also want them to run the table in the East if they can and be that team to do it. But then no changes because they would have won the Grey Cup, right? So I have a lot of wishes for next year, and nothing's going to happen. It's not going to happen. But
Friday night football.
The CFL ride. That's all we have.
The Montreal Alouettes and the Ottawa RedBlacks. Now, man, these two teams playing Thanksgiving Monday. Bob Dice, his first game as head coach. The RedBlacks gave Montreal fits, and remarkably, they still have a shot at making the playoffs. Yeah. But
it's crazy.
the Ticats have a shot at hosting a playoff game still after the Thanksgiving weekend. So Montreal really needs a win here. They want to clinch home field at least for the Eastern semifinal and host Hamilton, Ottawa, or Saskatchewan. This is coming down right to the wire, but be an interesting game here. It's been a while since we've seen the Monday and then the Friday rematch, home and home between these two teams. But the big thing is, you know it, our nation knows it, 0-7 at home this season. Can they win a game at home? That's the question, Sheldon.
Maybe. They haven't been able to so far. It's going to be tough without Jalen Acklin.
Yeah.
It looks like Powell got hurt, I think, right? So he's not going to be starting, I don't think.
Devontae Dedmon is out.
Yeah. So it's at least they have the benefit of being the home team in this short week. Like, they got to go home and work on their stuff without, I guess it's Montreal
2-hour drive or something like that.
Yeah. So it's not looking good, our nation. Sorry. Like,
the ghost of TD Place. I don't know. Who would it be? I don't know. The ghost of Trevor Harris or something like that. Reggie White Jr. and Sean Jameson. They're not going to be playing for the rest of the regular season, at least for the Montreal Alouettes. So some significant injuries for the Als as well. Now, coming into this game, it was probably a good idea, coming off the injury, that William Stanback wasn't the feature bell cow on Monday, especially with the game just a few days later. They did give him 8 carries. It wasn't as successful as you would have liked to have seen for Stanback. He only had 20 yards on those 8 carries and a long of 9. So 7 carries for 11 yards outside of the 8 for 20, and he actually didn't get involved in the passing game either. But I expect now that they'll be working him into the game plan more and more and get him ready as the weather gets colder heading into the playoffs, because William Stanback, he has what it takes to be one of the best backs in the league. And as a defensive lineman, a DB, or a linebacker, that's a guy I don't want running downhill at me, man.
No, and he shook, like, hopefully he shook off the rust that last game, because they're gonna need to have a big game from him. And he, like you said, he needs to get rolling, because if it comes down to them in Toronto in the Eastern Final, there, he's gonna control that game. Right, or they're going to want him to control that game. But now is the perfect time for him to shake off that rust, get in there, and get back to seeing the William Stanback that we grew to love here in the CFL.
I hate to look ahead, but a Montreal-Toronto Eastern Final, that sounds like a lot of fun to me. That defensive front for the Argos, Stanback running right at them, that'll be a battle. I know Ticats, Rider Nation, our nation, have something to say about that East Final, but
we don't deserve to have anything to say about it. Like, no. Win.
Yeah, and the Als, despite last week's loss, 5-2 in their last 7 or something like that, they've been finding ways to win here. And it's an important note that you mentioned about Jalen Acklin not playing here. Darvin Adams, Ryan Davis, Justin Hardy lining up at receiver, but a newcomer, and I'm not going to pretend that I know how to pronounce the first name, Sayosi Mariner, lining up at receiver. Now, Ottawa fans liked what they saw from him in training camp. I do know that much, and I do know that Mariner and Arbuckle train in the offseason, so maybe there's a little bit of chemistry there, and Ottawa, the RedBlacks, going to be looking to see what they have in this guy. But that being said, there was a bright spot in the offense for the RedBlacks last week. 13 targets, 11 catches for Justin Hardy, 79 yards there. He all of a sudden has become the top target getter in the Red Blacks offense now that Nate Bahar is not on the field here. And if Jalen Ackland's not going to play, Hardy might be in line to get double-digit targets again. He had something like 18 points for my fantasy team last week. Now, the CFL Podcast Network Fantasy League, it ended up being a loss for me. I lost by 4.5 points to Ryan Cooper. 113-109. It was a shootout, and Justin Hardy, man, he needed a touchdown, and I would have won it, but it just wasn't quite enough. Brazilian Ty ended up losing to Andrew of the Turf District, so good luck to those guys in the semifinals of that league. The winner will be donating, or able to donate, their winnings to a charity of their choice, and that's what it's been all about this season. But Friday night, Montreal, Ottawa, getting that rivalry going, coming off of Thanksgiving. Ottawa needs that home win. Montreal needs to win to clinch a playoff game, and they just played 4 days ago, so I expect some angry players coming on Friday, and there's nothing wrong with that, Sheldon.
Oh, I love back-to-back games. They're awesome.
There's been a lot of them this year. Now, do all of them make sense? Like a Toronto, Saskatchewan? Not really.
No.
But I'm okay with Montreal, Ottawa. And I want them, and it seemed like this year they made an attempt to make Thanksgiving weekend a bigger deal. They had a sponsor on it and things like that. I would almost be okay if, and I know Montreal gets to host the Thanksgiving one, and one of the big things is because they're kind of left out of Labor Day.
Yeah.
So why not make Thanksgiving Labor Day too? Have one for the Lions, or you can even have a Battle of Alberta rematch, or do Saskatchewan, Winnipeg, and have Toronto even host Hamilton. Whatever you want to do. But I like holiday weekend football. Maybe attendance doesn't do as well. In Montreal, hey, they had 21,000 there on Monday. Yeah. So it seems to be kind of a Thanksgiving tradition there. But I think this is something we can build as having it be a landmark weekend on the CFL calendar.
We totally should. The NFL does it with they have their Thursday night Thanksgiving game, their Thursday afternoon, I guess, Thanksgiving game.
Like a triple header.
Yeah. So, like, why the CFL needs, and we've been saying it for years, they need to do different things, different marketing. So I agree. Setting up a Thanksgiving Classic weekend would be awesome.
I just love Rod Smith, Dwayne Ford going to town on the bird. Man, I love that.
Yeah, he wasn't waiting to get in there. He wanted to get in there, which is great. I do miss Rod Black with the turkey though. It used to be his thing, I think.
You know what? You can't deny his enthusiasm for the Canadian Football League. Say what you want, the drinking game, all that kind of stuff, but the enthusiasm for the games,
even awesome. The drinking game, that's fun. Like it's not like people get way too butthurt over stupid things. Like, we need characters. Like, there's a reason why people like Romo when he's doing the NFL games, because he's kind of a character. He gives that player perspective, but he's also funny and goofy too. And like, the CFL needs to do stuff like that. They need characters. The Manning cast, they could do I don't know who, Fantoo's cast, I don't know. But
like, I'd watch the Bone Crusher and Adriano Belli watching a game or something. Tell me that would be awesome.
Please.
Now, the Stampeders also home on Friday night to the Hamilton Tiger Cats, an absolutely remarkable stat. I know that the Ticats only generally play at McMahon Stadium twice a year, or once a year. 2019 was twice. One of them was a Grey Cup loss, so that doesn't add to that streak for the Ticats. But they haven't won at McMahon since 2004. That's not good. to say the least. The Stampeders are a favorite by a touchdown here. Coming off the bye, the over-under is set at 49.5. By the way, Montreal 3.5-point favorites over the Red Blacks with the over-under at 47.5. Now, this will be a battle of the trenches, which every football game you can say is, but the Stampeders, the best rushing team with Kadeem Carey and company, against the best rushing defense with Micah Johnson and company for the Ticats. That will be a battle to watch on Friday night.
Absolutely. Micah's amazing at plugging in the middle there. Obviously, the Riders are probably wishing they re-signed him this offseason instead of
no doubt
letting him go over, I believe it was reported like chump change. Like,
and after giving $250,000 to Duke Williams,
yeah.
Doesn't look good in October of 2022.
No. But enough about that. No, like, and Kadeem Carey is crazy. He's so athletic, and they can put Logan in there too to give Carey a break. And
that's wild.
Yeah, no, definitely the best 1-2 punch. Like when the Riders had Frankie Hickson and Morrow going, I think they were probably up there for 1-2 punch when Jason Moss actually ran the frickin' ball. But no, like, yeah, I'm very excited to see which team breaks here, whether it's the Stamps offense or the Ticats defense, because it's must win for Hamilton. Absolutely must win. They can't lose. And I think Calgary's still trying to. I'm sorry. Did they
actually
second?
Can't lock up? No team can lock up second yet this week, but obviously winning is preferred.
Well, and BC, we're going to talk about it later, but BC is going to be having a little bit easier time with Winnipeg than Calgary is with Hamilton, right? So it's pretty much must win for Calgary if they want to keep being in the driver's seat for second place.
Yeah, BC and Calgary currently tied at 10-5. Okay. BC has the season series. So this week, Calgary's got Hamilton and then Saskatchewan twice. Mm-hmm. BC does have Winnipeg twice with Edmonton in the middle. Interesting. Because at the end of last year, I think what Winnipeg did is they sort of rested their starters going into the final week, and then in the final week they played their starters. But the Bombers, they're going to have a lot of rest. They've got the first round bye in the playoffs. They've got a bye coming up in week 20 as well. So they're going to be really rested. And I don't think, if I'm a Bomber fan, I don't think I'm worried. I think Mike O'Shea has proven that the Bombers rust versus rest thing, I think they can throw that out the window. They've proven that they can get on the field and they can perform. You might be able to argue that the West Final last year, with that first half, the Riders forcing all of those turnovers, maybe was a rust versus rest thing, but the second half they controlled it and they got her done. So I don't think that's anything really to worry about for the Bombers. What about you?
That's what they do. That's their whole identity is. If they make their mistakes in the first half, they learn from it at halftime. They make adjustments like coaching staff should, and then they just put the hammer down in the fourth quarter. So, yeah, you're right. It with that bye in there, it is a little bit interesting because that's that extra week of rest too. But I players like Zach Collaros, I don't think resting would really affect him. He's so calm in the pocket, and when he's running around, he's got. So I just. And they haven't really been hit by that injury bug as much as the other teams. So
their secondary would like to ask you a question.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, okay.
But you know what? Last year,
your secondary isn't as important. As important it seems, right? Because they
seems. Yeah. Last week, Collaros got up slow a few times against Edmonton. True. And you know what? The game was out of hand, and they were able to get Drew Brown in there. And of course, they had a touchdown pass from each of their quarterbacks. I don't know if there's many other teams in the CFL that could pull that off this year. Back to Hamilton.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
I kind of sidetracked that a little bit.
Remember the last time that the Stamps and the Cats played back in June? I'm sure Ticat fans want to forget that, but the Stamps are down 3 touchdowns at halftime, 24-3. Come back, win it 33-30 in overtime. If I'm Hamilton, you want to force Jake Maier to beat you, right? And I realize that Jake Maier is a very capable quarterback. He's got a very capable receiving core, but I don't know. If you can stop the run in Calgary and make them beat you with the pass, that's going to give Hamilton a fighting chance here. And the big news for the Stamps receiving core is that Malik Henry's not going to play. He's their leading receiver here. Kamar Jordan is also on the 6-game injured list. So it looks like in comes Sean Bain, 27 years old. He is a burner. He's gotten to 6 games this year, 226 yards, a touchdown on the season. But we've seen him. He's got speed. He had a 129-yard game against Toronto back in August. So the guy can move, and I think he'll be able to fill in for Malik Henry just fine. Now, I was trying to get him into my fantasy lineup. I couldn't find him, so I don't think he's on the website yet. But once they get him back in, he might be a cheap guy, and he might be gaining some targets here from Jake Maier and company. That might be something to watch. But you want to talk running games, Hamilton finally has one. And I think part of it is that they found a guy that they can commit to. I love watching Wes Hills run the ball. He reminds me of Standback a little bit. I don't know. Is that crazy? Like his size, he just he's
like that. Yeah, he hits it. And
another guy I don't want to stand in the way of.
No. And in Calgary, like when it's just Huffnagel is so good at finding players that when they are the ultimate next man up mentality team, and I think that comes from Dickinson, that comes from Huffnagel. They're a QB factory. They have been for years. They are a receiver factory for sure. So I'm not worried. I don't think not having Henry in there is going to really stop anything this week.
Wes Hills had 25 carries against the Riders last week, 132 yards. He's got 5.5 yards per carry on the year, and he's not like running off 50-yard runs. He's just controlling the clock. Yeah,
like
chunks at a time.
They killed the Riders with just long drives, and the Riders' offensive coordinator doesn't know how to do that apparently. No, it's and that's what Hamilton needs to do, because that's the only way they're going to be able to beat Calgary is if they take the clock away and they don't give Maier time. As a road team, that's what you have to do. You have to start fast, and then you have to be able to then slow down and just have big, long drives.
Wes Hill, 6'1", 218 pounds, an extra wrinkle to the offense for the Hamilton Tiger Cats that was not a part of that offense in that 33-30 loss earlier in the season. So that'll be something that the Jameer Thurman, Mike Rose, and company with the Stampeder defense need to look out for. Ticats are going to need to find a way to pressure Jake Maier too, as all we can praise the rushing defense. Pressuring the quarterback hasn't always been a consistent part of their game this year, so they need to get that done at McMahon Stadium on Friday night. If you look at the injury report, Micah Johnson is actually questionable here. He didn't practice on Wednesday, making a return to his old digs at McMahon Stadium. And they also did sign defensive back Jordan Hoover, a former player in Edmonton. He won't be playing this week. He has been limited in practice. But other than that, it does look like they are healthy. I'm going to watch to see if Simone Lawrence is going to be on the field. He's been practicing in full this week and last week, and Stephen Dunbar Jr. may be set to make his return to the roster as well. Going to be an interesting game on Friday night. Now, we have a doubleheader on Saturday. We actually have a doubleheader at Commonwealth Stadium itself. The U of A Golden Bears taking on the UFC Dinos at noon, and then Argos Elks at 5 o'clock. I believe university students get in for free. They can just go and claim their ticket, and they can go to both games and have a great October day at Commonwealth Stadium. I should mention, while the Elks don't have a home win, they've set the CFL record. The Ticats don't have a road win this year, so that's another thing to add there. The Argos, for their credit, 4-3 on the road. To me, this doesn't look good for the Elks. After going to Winnipeg and getting absolutely smashed. But the last home game against Montreal, they had it. They totally had it. And Chris Jones went into the locker room. He took credit for that loss, saying, when I'm on the 2-yard line with a dynamite running back like Kevin Brown and we're passing and throwing 110-yard interception returns, that's on me. So the Argos, 5.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 50.5. Which version of the Elks team are we going to see Saturday in Edmonton?
I don't know, but Elks fans, go to the game before. Maybe you'll see a win. You're not going to this week either. Sorry, Joe. Sorry.
Hey, you did owe him an apology, right?
Yeah, so sorry you're going to see another loss, Joe. Sorry.
I guess
no,
that
it's
counts.
just like, yeah. Well, it's honestly like Montreal has everything to play for.
Or Toronto, yeah.
Or Toronto, sorry. Toronto has everything to play for because they still have they locked up first?
Nope.
No, so they still have everything to play for. Edmonton has nothing to play for. It's just a continuation of this 18-week-long training camp that Chris Jones has been running, which will pay off in a couple years. So yeah. Elks fans need to realize that next year is going to be a better year. The year after that, if he's still there, will be a better year. Like the sun will rise. But I see this like I don't know what Trey Ford, how he's like, is he healthy? Because these last
he's been in uniform. He's been in uniform.
I'm gonna assume that Jones is gonna try to get him some more reps before the season's over, and Edmonton had their chance to win, like you said, last game there, and it's sorry.
I do think.
I hope it's an exciting game, but sorry.
I do think that this home losing streak, they haven't won at home as the Elks, which it feels actually pretty crazy to say that since the name change, the new brand, they haven't won a home game. And I remember the excitement last year. There was like 36,000 at the home opener. And man, just a brutal performance from the Elks team. And I think they want to get that figured out. They're in tough because Toronto, if they win here and Montreal loses, then the Argos have clinched first place in hosting the East Final for a second straight year. But if Montreal wins, Toronto's still going to want to win because then they've got that home and home with the Als. So 2 games remaining this season between the Als and the Argos. They could play again in the East Final. Hey, some repetition there, just like the Ticats and Argos earlier this season. I don't think we see that again, but Als and Argos, we're going to get a healthy dose of that before the Grey Cup goes up there. But either way, whether Montreal loses or wins, Toronto is going to want to get out there and get another win. And then next week, it's BC visiting Edmonton. And they want to lock up second place too. So, yeah, it's not an easy task for the Elks to get a win at home. Some news here. They have re-signed or extended young offensive lineman Jesse Gibbon to a 2-year extension. I thought maybe that this guy was going to be with the Hamilton Tiger Cats for a while, but they traded him to the Double E. I think he was involved in the David Beard trade. He's played 5 games for the Elks so far. He was second overall in the 2019 draft. Will be in Edmonton for the next couple seasons. But the Elks offense has their hands full with that Toronto defense, and we saw the pressure that they were getting on Vernon Adams Jr. early on last week against BC. The Argos secondary has more interceptions than touchdowns that they've given up. So Taylor Cornelius and I know Dylan Mitchell, he's basically a lock to get you about 15 points, but this week it might be tough to pull that off against that Argos defense that they're going to be looking to get to the quarterback early and often.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like, and Cornelius, he had his runs against the Riders there
I know
a few weeks ago, but that, I don't know if that was him or if that was the Riders not being able to catch him, but he's going to be running because, yeah, like you said, the Argos D is no joke. There's a reason why they're the most expensive defense in fantasy, which I don't know why Calgary isn't, but for some reason Toronto's number one. I think they're $4,400 for defense, I believe.
Yeah, it's some sort of fancy formula that they've got figured out, but the Argos defense forces turnovers. Yeah. And when you force turnovers and you score points that way, they're going to charge a lot of money for that. Was that I'm pulling it up right now, a couple weeks ago when the Argos played Ottawa, they put up 28 points.
Yeah.
5 interceptions, 1 fumble recovery, 2 defensive touchdowns, 3 sacks in 1 game.
Well, when you're like the one pretty decent team in the division, like at the beginning of the season, Montreal wasn't great, right? They've been in a roll now, but when you played early in the season, Montreal, when you played Hamilton 4 times or Ottawa, like, makes sense why they'd have they'd be scoring high points there.
That being said, they want to see some consistency from that offense. And I think really the only consistent player for the entire season has been Curly Gittens Jr. And props to him. Maybe he is the East nominee for most outstanding Canadian, which is actually a pretty interesting race, I would say, this year. He needs 80 yards to cross the 1,000-yard plateau. And there's a good chance that maybe he does that this week. 80 yards against Edmonton is it can be done for sure.
Very doable.
And
very doable.
I don't know what Winnipeg put on tape against the Elks, but they were crushing them up the middle. Like Dembski, Schoen, it didn't matter who it was. Up the middle of the field, they were crunching yards and gaining them in big chunks. So Curly Gittens Jr., he had 84 yards against BC last week, 36 against Calgary the week before, but the Toronto offense wasn't looking good there. And then he did, in 2 games against Ottawa, 11 catches, 202 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Curly Gittens Jr., I hope he's having a big game at Commonwealth Stadium, only because he is in my fantasy lineup this week for the first time all season. So that might mean that I have provided him with a big fat jinx. I hope not.
You jinxed him, I jinxed him too, because I have him too.
Now, the Edmonton Elks rush defense has given up the most yards in the CFL. Over 1,800 yards, averaging 116 and a half yards a game. Could AJ Ouellette be an option at running back for your team as well? Not only does he provide some of the rushing yards, and I'm just a fan of him because none of the yards he gets are easy.
He's fighting for them all.
He fights for every inch on the field. So he'll be fighting against Jake Seresna and company with the Edmonton Elks. But he's become a pretty big part of the passing game. And he's been a reliable sort of check down option for McLeod Bethel Thompson. So he's a player to watch there. And speaking of McLeod Bethel Thompson, last week was his first clean game without an interception in a while. So we go back to August 20th, week 11, he throws a pick. Week 12, throws a pick. Week 13, throws 2 picks. Week 14, throws a pick. By week 15, week 16, throws a pick. Week 17, throws 2 picks. Last week, 27 of 40, 352 yards, and a touchdown. Can he go 2 games in a row without committing a turnover for the Toronto Argonauts against those Edmonton Elks?
I don't know. That's
tough.
Yeah, but playing against Chris Jones' defense, you're always going to have that extra defender because he's rushing 3 only 85% of the time. So I wouldn't say that it's looking great for him to keep up that clean game streak. But he's getting smarter as he's going. Like his first couple of years, he seemed more willing to throw that 50-50 ball, but it's more like 25-75 ball. He's not throwing them as much anymore because he's found like Curly Gittens Jr. and trying to heat up Brandon Banks on those screen routes or whatever. I hope for him that he can go another week without throwing a pick, but it's going to be tough with Jerron Carter. He can still catch. He may not be able to tackle, but he can still catch if a ball's off target. And you still have Ed Gainey up back there. So they have players in the defense. It's just let's see what happens.
Brandon Banks hasn't practiced this week. I guess it's a personal thing. So we'll see what's happened. That's what's on the injury report.
I didn't look.
So we'll see if he's going to play on Saturday. DeJohn Allen, O-lineman for the Argos. He also hasn't practiced, and it's listed as personal as well. The Elks came away with some injuries in Winnipeg, including Toby Antigua. He hasn't practiced. Jamin Pelly hasn't practiced. Trey Watson hasn't practiced this week, with the knee injury. And then Kevin Brown, the running back who was struggling in Winnipeg, he went down. He kind of came back. So Tuesday he didn't practice. He was limited on Wednesday. We'll see if he gets into there. I think what's cool is that Emmanuel Arsenault practicing in full this week. I thought the Manny show was maybe not going to play again this season, but hey, he's out there in practice. What a leader he is. And he had the bushwhacker, kind of march.
I love the Manny show.
Man, I went to a game in June. He had 100 yards this year, 7 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. So yeah, I love Manny.
Like, I loved him too. And when he was with the Riders, we just didn't use him. It was the same as how when they had G-Roy and they didn't end up really using him as much. But
when it counted,
yeah, no, when it counted. Hot take: he should have been Grey Cup MVP, not Corey Sheets. That's all I'm going to say. But anywho, the Manny show is awesome. I hope it can keep going because he's great for the league. He's just a fun guy and
great leader. Yeah. Last game of the week, BC Lions 2-point favorites over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The over-under set at 50. Maybe that's a juicy betting line if you want to throw money down on BC. Here's the reason why. The Bombers going to be resting some starters with first place locked up. It looks like Drew Brown will start at quarterback for the Bombers, getting some valuable reps there. It'll be interesting to see who else on the offense is going to be getting a rest. Will Brady Oliveira be able to take a break? Dalton Schoen. I mean, Nick Dembski, he's got a pretty big campaign right now for most outstanding Canadian. It's 6 games in a row with a touchdown. So Dembski's trying to make a run at that as well. He's been playing great football since coming back from injury. And at first it looked like maybe he was just going to do it against Saskatchewan, but he's been able to keep going. Last week against Edmonton, 5 catches, 92 yards, a touchdown. He had 5 catches, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns against Sask, 436, 1. And then, man, back in August against Calgary, 8 catches, 117 and a touchdown. The 2 Labor Day and Banjo Bowl, 3 touchdowns, 12 catches, some quick math, 150 yards throughout those 2 games as well. He's been on absolute fire.
Yeah. That's all I can say.
You miss seeing Dembski in green and white. Yep.
Yeah, I do. He was awesome here. No hard feelings that he's going home.
Yeah.
It happens.
It happens.
My favorite player back in the day, Andy Fantuz, did it too. So at least we had more time with Fantuz than we did Dembski. But
hey, and we got Brandon Labatt from Winnipeg who wanted to come home. So hey, it goes both ways in the Canadian Football League. But you got to watch the depth charts for this one. I'm going to be interested to see if they're going to be giving the ball to Augustine more, if they're going to be giving it to McRae more, who has been making plays for the Bombers off and on this season. Is O'Leary Orange going to be getting the ball back? And I mean, we're going to be seeing maybe Greg Ellingson's going to be maybe not returning this week, but set to come back before the end of the season. And if they got Ellingson, Dembski, and Schoen firing on all cylinders for that Bomber offense, look out. Whoever's going to play them in this. Yeah. And Bailey. Hey, maybe Bailey's a guy that will still be on the field this week trying to make some plays for that Bomber offense in Vancouver. The BC Lions fighting for second place, so they want to win, but a welcome addition to the practice field Wednesday in BC. Nathan Rourke was there throwing the ball with the quarterbacks. Looked like he was being cautious with the footwork a little bit. Didn't want to go all out, which is understandable, but seeing him on the field is remarkable. And the talk is maybe he's going to play in the playoffs. And if he does, look out the rest of the CFL. Like,
yeah.
Wouldn't it be absolutely remarkable if he comes back and leads the Lions to Regina? And finally, I get to see him play this year.
Yeah. I hope that can happen for them, but at the same time, I just don't want to see him come back and like him be rusty and either re-injure himself and just like, I don't want to take off any of the luster of his season, right? Like, but he's obviously going to want to get back in there, and that's up to him and his doctors, I guess. But
well, and that's the question: should he play? But I mean, you bring in. I mean, if the doctors say, "Hey, you can get out there," I think.
Oh, he's number one for a reason. So
yeah,
they
got to make sure that he can still be, because he was not only good just throwing the ball.
No,
he was good at evading tacklers and moving and running down the field when he needed to. So if he's good to go with things like that, if he's on the field for the playoffs, I will be a happy guy.
Yeah, like I think it's a little with what you're saying there. It's a little bit different than like let's say Cody last year with his oblique injury. Whereas you definitely need the obliques to throw the ball. You can shoot it up and you can try to mask that maybe, but if he's having to plant and run around and stuff with his feet, that's a little bit more dicey than just some muscles in your back, I would say. So we'll see what happens.
The Lions, sorry, they're probably going to be focusing on discipline in practice this week. Oh, yeah. What a rough game last week for them in Toronto. Was it twice on the same drive, 3rd and short? McLeod Bethel-Thompson with the hard count was able to get the Lions to bite, and just showing Ryan Phillips on the sideline. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Watch the ball. And there were other moments in the game where I think there was the holding penalty that brought back the big play from Alexander Hollins. So they got into some penalty issues last week, which we haven't really seen from BC so far this year. And then, man, that Chris Edwards from Toronto, he's got to quickly becoming one of the villains of the CFL. He probably already is, especially in a place like Hamilton. But Sean White misses the kick, and he goes right to White to start some stuff. And then White, he tries to sell the whole. It was a whole silly situation. But really, you're chirping the kicker. Give me a break.
Yeah, no, and look what he was doing with Duke in Toronto when they were in Moncton there, or Halifax, wherever they were.
Halifax, yeah. I guess that's his goal. That's his goal.
Yeah, well, it's like what Dwight Anderson used to do, like just get under people's skin, right? Like, I watched Hustle last night. I don't know if you've seen Hustle, the basketball movie with Adam Sandler, but like, there's a guy in the movie who was doing that to this kid who he was trying to get signed, and it's just like it was really awesome trash talk. And it just made me think of the football field actually, because you don't see the trash talk as much, I think, on basketball, like during the broadcast maybe, but you definitely see it in football, like after a play, them go on each other. So yeah, it was interesting.
The Lions had 14 penalties for 130 yards last week against Toronto. It goes without saying that has to be an area of improvement for this week, especially against the Bomber team that really they don't beat themselves with silly mistakes like that.
No, they usually, they do. They turn the ball over like early in the games, but again, they, like we keep saying, it's a broken record. They figure it out after halftime, and it's like they know when to be disciplined and they know when they can afford to do something stupid. It's bizarre. As a Rider fan, it's so freaking annoying, but as a CFL fan, it's impressive. It's amazing. That's why I have this hat on now.
Yeah. Lucky Whitehead hasn't practiced this week with the ankle injury. Offensive lineman Phil Norman hasn't practiced either. Obum Gwacham, limited in practice, D lineman for the Lions. And Jalen Edwards Cooper has not practiced in the secondary. We'll say that Gary Peters has been upgraded to a full participant in practice as of Wednesday. He's been around the league for a while. He only had the 2 years in Edmonton, 2016 and 2017, has been in BC ever since. He's got 5 interceptions on the year.
He's had a great year.
Yeah, tied for second in the Canadian Football League. But it all goes down to who's Winnipeg going to be sending to Vancouver. And it looks like there could be a solid number of starters that won't be on the field. I'm sure Calgary looks at that and says, come on, man. So Calgary's going to do their job and beat Hamilton, and BC needs to do theirs and beat Winnipeg to stay in the race for that Western semifinal and the rights to host that game coming up in November. This episode of Two and Out brought to you by Alberta Blue Cross. Life as a business owner can be hectic, to say the least. Alberta Blue Cross understands that, so they offer flexible health, dental, life, and disability coverage for your employees. Even better, you can let your staff enroll and manage their coverage at any time and on any device. That makes life easier for them and for you. You've got this when it comes to group coverage for your small business, and Alberta Blue Cross has got your back. To learn more and explore your options, head to ab.bluecross.ca. Now, I'm out of the CFL podcast fantasy league, but I'm still making a lineup. Sheldon, what's your lineup looking like here?
Well, apparently I need to pay attention to injury reports, but so I'm taking a pretty big gamble at my quarterback position this week.
Are you going Drew Brown?
No. I'm going Dom Davis.
Whoa, the rushing TDs. Montreal, Edmonton has given up the most rushing TDs in the CFL, 28 of them.
Yeah, so I'm going Dom Davis, and then my running backs, I have Kadeem Carey and William Stanback. Receivers,
big boys.
And when you take Dom Davis, that's what you can do, right?
Yeah.
And then, so for receivers, I have Curly Gittens Jr. and I have Brandon Banks. So I gotta figure out if he's gonna actually be playing or not. In my flex, I got Brandon O'Leary Orange, and I'm rocking the Bombers defense.
Okay.
I might have to change that too, because that was before I realized that they were arresting some people. But as of right now, I have $267 to play with, and then also we'll see what we can do.
Okay, for me, I'm going Vernon Adams Jr. I mean, $7,700. Why not? For running back, I'm spending a combined $6,000. I got burned on running back last week, so whatever they get, they get. It looks like Jackson Bennett could be starting at running back for the RedBlacks. He's $2,500. I threw him in there. Greg McCrae, $3,500 for the Bombers. Hey, maybe they want to start getting him the ball more, whether it's receiving or running the ball. So I threw him in there. So that means I was able to spend some money with my receivers. Curly Gittens Jr., Eugene Lewis, my guy, is in my receiving core as well. And then I got another $2,500 special from the BC Lions, Alexander Hollins. We will see if he plays again this week. He had 3 catches, 47 yards, and a touchdown last week. And I think there was a 63-yard one called back on a holding call. And I'm taking the Argos defense, getting after Taylor Cornelius and the Elks offense. Who are you picking to win the games?
Well, I'm confident in 3 out of 4. So I'm picking Montreal, Calgary, Toronto, and right now I have Winnipeg, but I think I'm going to probably flip that to BC. But yeah, all road teams except for Calgary is what I had.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Als? No, I got Stamps at home. Yeah, Argos on the road, Lions at home. So I'm 2-2. Those are my picks for Week 19. Sheldon Jones, thank you for your availability, and thanks for coming on the show this week to get us ready for Week 19. I'm going under the knife tomorrow. I'll talk to you when I talk to you, but next week there will be episodes with Derek Dennis and Tanya Walter of the BC Lions. Take care of yourself. I'll do my best to take care of myself.
You're gonna crush it. It's not a thing, man. You're gonna crush it.
You're the man. You're the man. You can rate, review, and subscribe to Two and Out on your favorite podcatcher. Like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube as well. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening. Find more great shows like this at CF Pod Network on Twitter.